invite you to stand as you are able. If you want to follow along with this morning's text, you can find it on page 113 in the New Testament section of the Pew Bible, or I believe on the screen behind me. This is the Gospel according to John chapter 15, beginning with the 9th verse. As the Father has loved me, so I have loved you. Abide in my love. If you keep my commandments, you will abide in my love, just as I have kept my Father's commandments and abide in his love. I have said these things to you so that my joy may be in you, and that your joy may be complete. This is my commandment, that you love one another as I have loved you. No one has greater love than this, to lay down one's life for one's friends. If you are my friends if you do what I command you. I do not call you servants any longer, because the servant does not know what the master is doing. But I have called you friends, because I have made known to you everything that I have heard from my Father. You did not choose me, but I chose you. And I appointed you to go and bear fruit that will last, so that the Father will give you whatever you ask him in my name. I'm giving you these commands so that you may love one another. This is the gospel of the Lord. Thanks be to God. You may be seated. Brothers and sisters, grace to you and peace from God our Father and from our risen Lord and Savior, Jesus the Christ. Amen. So a couple of things to start off here. This is going to be kind of a two-part sermon, so to speak. By that I mean I'm going to do a bit of a setup for next week when the youth will be standing up here doing their thing, which is going to be fun. And then I'm going to start off with some clarifications right now about just what we're talking about in this text. So here goes. This is a great text from John. I love it. It's one of my favorite texts to preach because it's a feel-good text. We use it at a lot of weddings when people don't know what to do. I open this up and go, here, read this. And they go, oh, it's awesome. Right? This is one text that is full of positive, happy, and good news. Right? So we're going to start by making sure that we're all on the same page about a couple of things, just who and what we're talking about in this text. This is still part of Jesus' farewell. So he's sitting in the upper room with his apostles around the table, the Last Supper, Holy Communion, all that kind of stuff, and then they sit around and talk. This is part of that conversation. He's sitting with them at this Passover meal. That's important to remember because this is kind of Jesus giving us his parting wisdom, so to speak. So we'll keep that in mind. So, again, make sure we're on the same page with a couple of things. One of them is just, who is this Jesus person? Now, we have hindsight and knowledge that those with him in that room probably did not have at that time, right? But this is Jesus, Emmanuel, God with us, right there in the flesh, sitting there like you and I are here today. The man that is speaking these words is our Creator. And that is really cool, right? Imagine these people that are listening to the words that we just heard are sitting there with God. These words are coming right from the mouth of God. Right? If Jesus is, God is Jesus, and Jesus, remember your algebra? A equals B, B equals C, then A equals C, right? Keep up here, people. Okay, this Jesus is talking about how we're going to get along after he's gone, so to speak. Now, we know that he's not really gone. But they, the ones with him at this meal, did not. So this is Jesus' instructions on how to move on from that night and the next couple of days. And make sure that what he got done on earth carries on through each of the apostles sitting there, and consequently, through each of us, right? Okay, I think we're clear, right? This is good stuff. We're moving on. Now, I've said it before, I'll say it again. This is Jesus redefining relationship. This is one of those texts where that ought to be crystal clear. Think about it. We, the people of God, have spent a lot of time up to this point in a vision of a relationship that was a little bit top-down, was it not? We saw ourselves as subservient to God, and we were not all that excited about meeting God face-to-face, because in the Old Testament, if you ran into God face-to-face, generally, you tipped over dead. So that's not that appealing of a thought, right? So also, this relationship was one that where we, the children of God, saw ourselves as servants. We were the underlings of this God that ruled our lives and punished us when we did something that God didn't like or that was against the rules. We knew our place. Our place was far below. We were the bottom row on the religious organizational chart. That's a terrible thing to say, isn't it? It's awesome. We did not see the relationship as one that was founded on God's great love for us, so much as it was one that was based on our responsibility to follow a set of rules as administered by those whom we perceive to be in positions of power. That power was granted by God, and who were we to argue with it? So there we were, living out our place as little worker bees in the hive of religion. Then along comes this Jesus guy and flips the whole thing over. Starts off by telling us that the way that he loves us is how he was loved by the Father. Think about that, right? It isn't top-down, that's lateral love. That's a bit counterintuitive if we spent all our time thinking about the whole top-down thing. Jesus is telling us here that he's loving us just as he is loved. And if we think about the love that is streaming into him from God, well, then we can actually kick back, put our sweats on, and relax, right? Because this love is the best there is. It's good news. Let it soak in. Now, I don't want you to hear the next part as some sort of exclusionary statement, because I don't hear the "if you keep my commandments" part of this statement as a separation. I hear this as a statement of awareness. If we are doing what we can to keep our strength, our hearts, and our minds and our souls focused on the love that Jesus is talking about, then we will not have any choice but to be abiding with Jesus. Now think about what Pastor Craig said last week about abiding, right? Because that really fits here. Jesus is giving us an amazing picture of what happens when we keep our vision focused on him. He's not telling us a condition. He's giving us a picture of a reality. So then when we think we have a grip on this reality that Jesus lays out, or maybe we do, maybe we don't, who knows? Jesus lays the foundation for that reality. Ground the whole thing in love. Jesus tells us that he's our friend, and he gives us an example of the depth that he will take that friendship. Laying down your life for your friend is a lofty goal for sure. I'm not sure how much I should encourage that, but I want you to keep it in mind, as this is still a vision of a reality, not a creation of a condition. It's not that you won't be somebody's friend if you don't die for them. This is Jesus telling us the extent to which he's going to carry it out. And he's going to carry it to that extent for each one of us. Then comes the coup de grace, so to speak. I do not call you servants any longer, because the servant doesn't know what the master is doing, but I've called you friends, because I've made known to you everything that I've heard from the Father. Talk about a bombshell. I mean, what? Jesus is calling us his friend? Think about that. Let it sink in for a minute, right? Jesus is calling you his friend. The creator of the universe. The one who died so that you can live. The good shepherd that cares for you more than anything in the world and would leave the 99 to go find you is calling you his friend. Not only that, but he follows it up with a statement that tells you that really you don't have any part in that, right? You didn't choose me, I chose you. Oh, that's awesome. Jesus chose all of you as his friends. Again, takes the pressure off, right? You can just be you now. And the you that you can be is the one that's sitting on the same friendship level with everyone else and Jesus. Jesus is leveling the playing field so that we can now concern ourselves with taking this friendship and doing something good with it in the world. We don't do this because we have to. We do it because we get to. We get to go into the world and bear fruit that will last because we've been given that ability by Jesus, our friend. He tells us the Father will give us whatever we ask in his name. And that means that we can do what we're called to do because Jesus already arranged that ability in us, gave us everything we need to get it done. No worries, just go be. There's no divisions anymore. There's no separations. There's no walls. There's no fences. There's no us and them type of group to worry about. We are all in this together, and we are in it with Jesus. Knowing that we are somehow made equal in friendship with Jesus ought to give us an awful lot of confidence. I think for most of us it does, but there are some that don't feel that, right? There are some who don't see this friendship. There are some who don't have their eyes on that vision. And I think that the day when all of us come together will be the one when God shows up and the golden city descends from the clouds. Until then, we are declared as Jesus' friends. And until then, what are we going to do about it? I think the answer has to be that we get out there and share it. Right? We tell other people about our friend, and we tell them that Jesus declares them friends as well. The God of the universe, the creator of everything, the one who died so you can live, declares you as friends too, whether or not you know it. We show other people what it means to live a life that is grounded in love and connected by Jesus. I remember at the beginning I told you that this was kind of a setup, so to speak, part one. Well, that's because next week is youth-led worship. That's when a whole bunch of really amazing kids get up and show the rest of us what it means to live out this loving friendship. And I wouldn't miss that if I were you. Come and see. Amen.